What if the afterlife isn't a reward or punishment, but a bureaucratic maze built on the illusion of fairness? The Good Place reimagines morality and redemption through a bold comedic lens, asking not just what makes a good person, but who decides and why it matters. While it begins with a familiar setup, heaven, hell, and the humans caught in between, it quickly tears down those expectations, revealing a world where philosophy, ethics, and chaos coexists. Every twist isn't just clever, it's a provocation, challenging us to rethink how we judge others and ourselves. The show uses absurdity not to mock belief systems, but to expose how deeply flawed and human they are. At its heart, The Good Place isn't about the afterlife. It's about the daily choices we make, the system we trust, and the hope that change is always possible, even after death. So if you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button and check out my other videos after this one. And follow my new Substack in the link below for more personal reviews on the TV shows that I watch. And now, without further ado, let's explore The Good Place. Chapter 1. The Illusion of the System. Anarchy is the definition of disorder, a system that feels like a system only to realize it was all an illusion. The afterlife. Many religions and cultures have their own beliefs about what truly comes after death. The Good Place capitalizes on the illusion we all think we understand. The false pretense that the amount of good, or in some cases, the bad you do in life, will earn you a place in the perfect scenario after death? But that too is an illusion. Yes, in some ways, there is the concept of the good place and the bad place. But what does that even mean? The system you once thought was created by those above you in life, the idea that one grand gesture of goodness determines your fate, is dismantled. Instead, it's every minute detail, every seemingly insignificant action that ends up defining your life's purpose and what follows after. Every action carries consequences, either for better or for worse. It feels like a perfect system, a true method to determine who belongs where. But that very thought is anarchistic. It's that grandiose belief that your actions neatly slot you into a post-life reward or punishment. Is it so special to think that? Figures we assumed have lived good lives are mentioned briefly, even discarded as comedic throwaways who ended up in a bad place. That's the punchline, because every action you take in this world, which we think is governed by some system of control, has actually been built on lies. A lie that shields us from the harsh truth that the cons may always outweigh the pros, and any system for change may feel impossibly difficult. It's a system we want to believe in, and rightly so. But in the end, the series isn't mocking anyone's right to believe, it's just presenting one possible version of reality, one that makes everything feel like it's in disorder. Chapter 2. Afterlife Bureaucracy. What does it mean after you're dead? The factual concept that you're either going to heaven or hell, or something else entirely, is what makes that thought so intriguing. The afterlife is something people dread or look forward to, knowing that there could be a next life once you live the life you already have. However, what does that system even look like? The series deconstructs that notion, making a satirical comment about the very nature of the afterlife. It, just like the systemic world we've come to follow, might in their take be another bureaucracy controlling the entirety of the afterlife realm. Yes, they have far more power than ordinary human beings, but that is the point. These are the grand beings who built the afterlife. From those working in both the good place and the bad place, each has their own take on what it means to be either good or bad. Those who are in the bad place enjoy the sadistic stuff, the torturous, the impractical jokes with serious consequences. Why? Because that's what they're meant to be. Those who maim the souls, not because they have to, but because they want to. In contrast to those in the good place, are relaxed to the point of contemplation. Their notion of calm and comfort has led them to neglect, to believe that those who get into the good place are the chosen ones, never questioning the system that has existed for so long. Then there are the other figures, the judge, the doormans, and the janits. In this ethereal bureaucratic world controlling the system, alongside those in the good place and the bad place. It's almost like the world we live in. The bureaucracy we experience is mirrored in what comes after in the life of the dead. A world that reflects the class system of everyday human being. The architects and the engineers of the good place resembles the ruling class, those who built the system, and rarely faces the consequences of what they've designed. Meanwhile, the bad place's functionaire, those who carries out the torture and enforce order, mirrors the working class, not in power, but in position, always on duty, following order, and often embracing the cruelty of the system because they've internalized it. They didn't build the structure, but they've become its most loyal enforcers. And maybe that is what the cruel irony of the afterlife is truly about, a reflection of who we are as society, not just as humans, but as those who control it. Chapter 3: Ethics as Entertainment. Now, is the action right, or is it wrong? The notion of ethics has always been to question these two distinctions, and whether we should even be asking these questions at all while we as humans make the decisions we make on a daily level. In hindsight, that can get really boring. To question every decision because you think there's always a right or wrong answer makes your life completely dull. Sure, some decisions should be made with the right amount of questions and research, but having the difficulty of mundane tasks, like picking which muffin you want from a food stall, well, that in my sense is diabolical. And when the question of ethics is put into entertainment, there's fairly a high chance, if not a 99.9% chance, that the story will lead the viewers to quit straight away. However, The Good Place becomes the 0.1%, where the concept of ethics is so intertwined into the narrative that we as the audience begin to understand more deeply the true essence of what ethics is supposed to be. In a world where the decisions the human makes are totaled up to determine whether one gets into the good place or the bad place, the notion of ethics becomes vital. It helps get these characters to not just break the mold of doing things just because, but to think deeper and make each decision count, while also learning not to become too indecisive either. It's about finding that fair balance. As Chidi, one of the 4 humans who ended up in the fake good place, teaches the others, and even some ethereal beings like Michael, about ethics, it becomes a story that isn't just meant for humans. It's also a lesson for those who created the afterlife bureaucracy in the first place. Ultimately, it becomes a story not about micromanaging every decision in your life, but instead about caring enough to make the changes you can in order to help yourself and each other become the best versions of yourself. It's a journey filled with endless possibilities for the characters in the series to face, and that's what makes it so compelling. Because in truth, we could all use a little bit of ethics in our lives to better ourselves and each other. Chapter 4: Twist as Philosophical Tools. Philosophy is something most people chooses not to learn due to the overwhelmingly confusing wisdom it imparts from the ancient times to the present. However, if you think about it, all these philosophical tools we often dismiss as just wisdoms from some old guy are actually critical to shaping our beliefs about what comes next. The thoughts we carry in our minds and our moral consciousness, and the greater stories we can learn from philosophy are not something to be forgotten or ignored. These ideas form the foundation of who we can be as human beings. As our life progresses, this foundation becomes the one thing we can truly rely on to guide us towards where we want to be. The Good Place uses philosophical stories not just as tools to provoke thoughts about our own lives, but also as a way to introduce unpredictable twists in the journey of these characters. Each of the 4 main characters in the series begins as flawed persons who end up in what they believe is the good place, but which is in fact a cleverly disguised bad place designed to torture them. This simulation set up by Michael leads to an extraordinary discovery. These individuals can actually change. The possibility of change becomes the emotional core of the story and why we care about their journey from start to finish. From the beginning, we knew that at least one of them, Eleanor, was likely not supposed to be in the good place. But as the series continues and we witness revelations about decisions they would have never made in their former lives, it becomes clear their growth isn't about who they were, but who they are becoming together in the afterlife. The shocking twist that the good place is actually the bad place was just the beginning. The simulation forces each character to grow, and the personal evolution extends outwards, sparking a transformation to the very neglected system known as the afterlife. In the end, their impact in the afterlife becomes far greater than anything they have achieved while they were alive. Chapter 5: Human Error as Spiritual Progress. Humans make mistakes. It is the antithesis of what makes us who we are. The mistakes we make are the reasons why we learn in life. Some are unintentional, simply because we don't know better. Others come from curiosity, a desire to see what happens when we take certain actions. And then there are the mistakes we repeat, often because we still haven't learned any better. The life that everyone lives, the mistakes, the success, the failures, and everything in between adds up in the end. And in the afterlife, this total is weighed to determine whether you truly belong in the good place or the bad place. This is the core concept of the series. The mistakes humans make on a fundamental level are what keeps the wheels of life turning. For those in the ethereal realm, these mistakes are viewed as flawed. They judge humans as inherently stupid and morally corrupt, easily tempted by wrong choices. This perspective explains why many people we assume will go to the good place have not. Yet this very journey of mistakes is also the key to human progress. For some, it's difficult to look past the improprieties of their actions. A selfish mistake becomes the defining trait. But for others, no matter how self-interested they've been, change is possible. Mistakes can be healed. Human errors can evolve into progress, not just in a literal sense, but spiritually as well. All 4 of the first humans in the grand experiment that Michael set up have proven time and time again that no matter the reboots or the fake good place they've landed in, or even a life they weren't meant to have but were given a chance to live, they can change. Despite their misdeeds and the negativity that once defined them and attracted the bad place, they transform. They become guides for the next generation who will face the same trials after death. Why? Because people in most cases have the fundamental power to change. That power doesn't come just from the positive influence of others, it has to come from within. And the next time you make a mistake, remind yourself, it's not truly a bad thing. It's just another step towards what comes next. Chapter 6, the ending. The notion of what is next in life, the question of what lies beyond in this grand experiment we call life, has always been the driving force for people to live their lives, no matter how short, to the fullest extent. That concept of the afterlife is where the story begins, and it continues to make us wonder what is coming next. The point system that once determined whether someone would get into the good place or not has become the central question of worthiness. The idea that every action we take is tallied to determine our next chapter in the afterlife can be a grim and unsettling fear. Because we know deep down that nothing we do, no matter how good a life we lived, might not be enough. The ripple effect of even our best actions can have unintended consequences. And if that truly were the system determining who goes to heaven or hell, well, it's obvious where most of us would end up. This is why the adventures of Eleanor, Chidi, Jason, and Tahani and the redemption arc they undergo are so vital. They prove that people can change for the better. The point system, in contrast, only proves how flawed it is to judge someone who has no reason or opportunity to change because they've never been given the notion or chance to. That discovery becomes the catalyst for the broader shift we see. After countless trials and rule bending within the bureaucracy of the afterlife, a compromise is finally reached. Rather than condemning souls to eternal punishment in the bad place, they're given a chance to redeem themselves, an opportunity many people, if given the chance, will likely embrace. Yet, even with redemption and the reward waiting in the good place, this isn't the end of the journey. It's merely a middle stop. What truly defines what's next after life is inner peace, the peace that comes from fulfilling your dreams, achieving your goals, and walking the path of redemption that led you there. It's about eventually being ready to say goodbye to everything, knowing that stepping into the unknown might be more meaningful than clinging to the world you've already outgrown. And in that moment, each of the 4 characters find their own version of their new adventure, into the unknown towards whatever comes next. In a world where possibilities are infinite, even ethereal beings can feel the mundanity of a perfect system, reminding us that change is not just inevitable, but necessary, no matter what that might mean for you. And maybe that's the most honest version of the afterlife we could ever imagine. Not a destination, but a moment where we're finally ready to move on. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you soon in the next review episode.